Thank you for a fantastic film. So that, let me get that appreciation and admiration over with, because that's undoubted. Taking off from the discussion that Mamta and George had, and actually the question he asked, both have been sort of in my head and I've been trying to bring it together. So the fact that all these various movements might have come together at strategic moments within the film, I think is less important than the fact that as filmmakers, you want to bring them together into the same frame, which is very interesting, which is very provocative, and I think difficult to sort of bring together in one's head, possibly, which is why you took so much time with the edit. Actually, your question suddenly made me realize that the incongruencies between these various groups together, to connect with what you said, all of it gets papered into a very compelling narrative, thanks to Abhro's bringing together, and when he kept saying it's the experiential, is when I realized that it's actually the drama of these various things that bring it together into a compelling narrative. And possibly it's because it's such a compelling narrative that makes me a little uncomfortable, because the tensions between these various groups vis-a-vis the city is papered over almost entirely. And so while everything about the sound design and the edit is fantastic, makes for a really, really fabulous experience, but it is, I think, the one thing significantly that erases just how unwieldy these various movements and protests are. And I'm wondering whether there is a way to keep that discomfort, that Malini would not be out there with the powder karmikas ever, you know.
That's totally true.
So I'm not saying that is the criticism to the film. I'm just wondering whether that experiential graph that you sustain is the only way, you know, is that the way that ends up erasing these various prickly moments, which are also very rich in their narrative content. Actually, it's another kind of a narrative. It's a narrative that might not hold together in this continuity as well, but in a sense breathes heavier and possibly sort of bothers you all the more. Here, while all the stories end in a moment of hopelessness, I am going back feeling like, oh, the city came together, which we all know is not what it is. So it's just thoughts that I had about I think these various comments made me realize what was bothering me, that actually the drama of each of these overwhelms the grey, the mess, actually, in the cinematic experience. So it's an observation, it's a wonderful thing for me to go back with as a filmmaker, that, you know, because I personally always stay away from the drama, and here I loved it. I would normally not have liked it also, but this was so incredible. But then I started realizing that maybe that is the reason why the mess gets cleaned up, in a sense, you know, the messy material. So it's just a thought it's lovely for me to go back mulling over this. But yeah, thank you.
I'd like to react to that, but I don't know if you want to react. Let's see. Go ahead. See, any film, you have a certain focus. Now you develop a certain focus during the making of the film. The film is not about everything that's happened to Bangalore since forever. I mean, you know, our film is firstly time-bound, and we were very clear that it's the changes that are happening as a result of this so-called projection of the global city Bangalore. So, of course, many of these groups have divergent objectives, and they fight with each other. Like I was saying, there's Avenue Road traders who are small shops and who are going to possibly lose their shops. They feel they don't sympathize with the payment vendors on their own street, so they don't form a connection there. But it is true that Hasirusu has brought a whole bunch of people together. I mean, that is a fact. And it is true also that as we were working on it, our perspective changed, because we thought we'd first do a film only on MG Road. the metro on MG Road. Then we thought, no, we can't limit it to that, let's say the metro all over Bangalore. But what happened was we also kept running into people who were protesting, who were working on many other things, like Leo. I don't know, you know Leo really well. So, you know, Leo, they work on like 50 things simultaneously. And Vinay also, who got into it through that, and then he started doing other things. So Vijay, who's not really an activist at all, he just associated himself with these 3-4 things. So they kept calling us. They said, no, there's something happening here, there's something happening here. So then we rushed off there, we filmed this, we filmed that. Then we started thinking, no, we began to see connections. So even if there are no connections between these different groups, there's a connection with what is causing that problem. So which is, I mean, in our minds at least, the state, and I mean, there are other problems of course, but you know, the problems of the recent times is because of this kind of over-construction and over-widening of roads. And so, and you know, they were supposed to widen 208 roads or something, and in fact only some 8 were widened, 8 or 10. Now, of course, one wouldn't credit the protests with being able to stop. Is probably just pure inefficiency, but maybe some of that was because of all the protests. They get written about all the time, all of these people. So that must have, you know, mobilized public opinion against this kind of thing, a larger public opinion, and therefore I think the state didn't push for as many changes. And even like Avenue Road, they have to provide a reason, which is that people from one end of Avenue Road have to go to the other end a little bit more quickly to reach the airport more quickly, which is like 40 kilometers from there. Now, you know, Avenue Road is only 1.1 kilometer or something. So, and the road around it is 3 kilometers. But unless they provide that reason, they can't actually just knock down the shops, because there'll be too much protest. You know, the state can't take that kind of action. And in Indranagar, the metro weaves its way like that, right? So, CMS Road. And they can't knock down the shops unless there's something like the metro to do it. So, so there is advantage for all of these people to come together, and at certain moments in time they sense that advantage, so they do come together. Of course there are differences. I mean, there are differences within a colony like Jayanagar. So the RWA people are also from there, and the people who are protesting are also from there. So